So my next guest on today's show has actually made me feel quite good today because he says my hair looks good and I'm all blazered up. So let's say hello to Ritchie Neville. How are you doing?
Hey, yeah, lockdown. Yeah, but Lewis, somebody's cutting your hair. There's no way you've gone, what, 6 weeks or whatever it is without a haircut.
Do you know, I have. When you asked me who's cut my hair, I thought, oh God, he's going to say it's terrible.
No. Well, I was saying to you, before we interviewed, like, you got the blazer. You're not looking too bad. I've been sat around in a pair of pants for a week.
I think that's the same from everyone. I'm normally like that, apart from when I'm doing the interviews. You look like you've been working out.
When you're not interviewing, basically you've got a pair of pants on. You've got no trousers, pair of pants, but you know that the top half is just in view, right?
You're not far from the truth. You're literally bang on.
Come on, what have you got on?
Got some shorts. You're the only one you're the only person that noticed. It was funny when I answered the door to the postman today and I'm kind of dressed really smart and then not so good down below.
Yeah.
So how are you doing?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, you mentioned like postman. When the postman comes, I'm like, I always talk to him anyway. Like we're on name tags and stuff, but I'm like, all right, mate, how are you? It's a person. Yeah, I'm all right. Like I'm okay. Like definitely, it's been a roller coaster though. A little bit for us all, I think.
Yeah.
For me, I think, we got locked down, and in my mind and in the media and everything, it was like, yeah, it's going to be a lockdown for 6 weeks to 3 months, just while they catch up and they get everything. And then gradually, I think when people started talking about, oh, life won't be fully back to normal till 2021, I think that sort of, I started going, hang on a minute, I can't even get my head around that. I thought it was like, yeah, we'll lock down, then everything will be okay. And now it's like, what? The whole year is a write-off. That concerns me, for lots of people's mental health, for my own, for obviously finances and working, paying mortgage, paying bills. A lot of people, certainly in I'd say that work in the music industry, not just performers, but people are long-term, sound engineers and the people at the venues, that's a lot of people not earning, and that have got mortgages and mouths to pay. And it's not just the music industry. Like one of my neighbours, he works for like power tool companies, and he organises the exhibitions for them. Like I know for some reason, like big European ones in Monaco and stuff like that. He's talking about not being able to work for over a year until it all comes back on, So yeah, it's uncertain times.
And I guess your shows are all postponed for now because you would have lots of dates kind of planned up. So I guess that's going to be carried on until the next year.
Yeah, certainly the ones for the next few months have dropped out. We had a tour, kind of Scandinavia, Denmark, Norway, Sweden. That's just gone for a Burton. They very quickly came and said, look, people aren't even, I think, allowed in the country and all the venues are closed. So that's that gone. We'll see, really. Nobody knows, but the only thing I do know is that people in the gig industry, if you like, will be the last back to work. Even talking about opening pubs, but having social distancing. Now, coming from a pub background, my mum was a publican. I grew up in a pub. That's not going to work. It's just not going to work. All right, it brings a little bit of income in, but they need to fill those rooms to make it work. So yeah, I don't think anyone was expecting this on New Year's Eve.
No,
Oh
it is.
yeah,
No
20 going to be my year.
way. For people that have not, because I've spoke to you a couple of times before, so for people that have never seen one of our interviews before, obviously you're best known for being in the band Five. So going back to the very beginning, how did you get your part in that? That was an audition process that you had to do?
Yeah, it was. I actually ended up at the audition because it was the creators of the Spice Girls they'd lost the Spice Girls. The Spice Girls had become this worldwide phenomenon, and they'd gone to a different manager, but they put them together. Simon Cowell had approached Chris and Bob and said, look, you know, can you do it again, but this time with boys? So I read it, the media had picked up on it because the Spice Girls was such a big phenomenon at the time. And there was an article in one of the papers and it said, do you want to be a Spice Boy? And the reason I read it was because I was a grunge head, you know what I mean? I was Nirvana, Pearl Jam, that kind of thing. I didn't really like pop music that much. But I looked at it and I thought, oh, please, you can't tell me they're going to make a boy band and call it the Spice Boys. Like, that is so bad. Which made me read it and then dismissed it, read past, and then I kept going back to the page. And I did this a good 7 times. I was only 17, might have even been 16 at the time. And then the cogs started turning. I was like, well, they probably won't call it the Spice Boys. That's just how they're dressing it up and yada, yada. So I went and showed my mum. I was like, oh, what do you reckon to that? 'Cause obviously from Birmingham, so it's not like it was easy to get to London. You know, we're not in London and whatnot. Mum was like, look, you know, yeah, you know what? Why don't you just go? It'll be an experience. It was the first audition of that kind I'd ever been to. I'd been in school plays and stuff like that. I'd been in lots of bands, rock bands, playing in church halls and stuff like that. I did do the National Youth Music Theatre, so I'd done a bit. I was used, and then that was it. Cut a long story short, yeah, long audition process out of 3,000 people, and they whittled it down to us 5.
And the thing is, with you as a band, you were catapulted into the fame really quickly. It's kind of like an overnight thing. So from being like an everyday guy to suddenly being this idol, heartthrob, and you know the kind of rotas that you had and schedules, was that overwhelming for you because it just happened at a click of a finger, really?
Yeah, a little bit longer than a click of the finger, but yeah, pretty much. I mean, we got into the band. We certainly moved in to the house together in the May of '97. And it was a bit slow the first month to 3 months. It was a little bit slow. We had there was a fair amount of time just messing about at home and not really doing all that much. And that was a bit boring. But there was, a little bit of choreography, a little bit of studio. And then it just started ramping up and the songs got better. And it was like, oh, that's actually good. Like you can hear that on the radio. And yeah, by December, we were in the top 10. So yeah, in that respect, it was quite quick. And certainly, I mean, I was always expecting from a sort of patriarchal kind of way, one of the managers to come and like put the arm around the shoulder and go, right, this is what to expect. This is what your life's going to be. And have you thought about this and you're ready for that? And, but it just never came. It was like almost like being thrown into the Colosseum, like, fighting a load of gladiators. You got like, you are hot at the time, really hot property. The media want a piece of you. You're dealing with like the tabloids. You're 17. It feels like everything's coming at you all at once. And I always said, like, I've embraced it. I'm used to it now. I've lived more of my life as a recognizable person than I did before I was recognizable now. So I'm comfortable with it now, but it took a long time to get comfortable with it. And certainly in those days, you'd go to a shopping mall, and to begin with, when you're 17, and they're like, and it'd be a bit pandemonium. You'd be like, oh yeah, mad, like I'm famous, like this is really weird. And then after about 6 months of going to restaurants and constantly somebody's, you know, always coming over, you can't speak to your family, you don't get quality time with the people you love, and you only have limited time with them, and it does become a little bit stressful, and it was a big thing to get your head around. So I always say, like, the fame part of it is fun for 6 months.
Yeah.
Then for a little while, it did become overwhelming. And I always used to say, like, I wish it had like an off switch, you know, where you could just turn it off for an hour or two, go out, walk around like you used to do without constantly, you know, just having a breather and a bit of mental space. But it is what it is, really. You know, you got into it. You thought you knew what to expect. Turns out it was nothing like what you thought it was going to be, but you made the choice. So, you know, you just got to get on with it and cope as best you can. But I can see why a lot of young celebrities have and do lose the plot.
Especially with social media now.
Oh, thank God we didn't have social media.
Yeah. How would you have coped, do you reckon?
Genuinely, I think that we'd have got into a lot of trouble. And I really mean that. I've thought about this a lot, because when we were 18 on a tour bus, drinking straight vodka, absolutely, you know, off our heads, at some point, one of us would have dared the other one to, like, I bet you won't, or I dare you to take a picture of your nutsack and put it on Twitter, and one of us would have done it. Like, it just would have happened. So I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't around.
You know, in regards to, because you hear it from a lot of people, like, well, I've interviewed, for instance, and they've had all this success, and you would just assume the money would flow like you wouldn't believe. But a lot of them didn't necessarily get their fair share, or it was the big record executives that got that. Was that the same for you?
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
I mean, at the time, you're doing well. I mean, there's not many 18, 19-year-olds that are earning the amount that you're earning. But in that sense, you also think, you know, like we all do when we're 18, you think you're invincible, don't you? You know, you think you're invincible, and it almost feels like it's going to go on forever. And, you know, I mean, we were lucky enough that we never failed. Like, it wasn't like we tried to release something and it didn't work. We just decided to call it a day. Like, we'd sort of had enough. And we'd had enough because of the work schedules. I think, in all honesty, and I'd say it to their faces, if they'd have worked us more intelligently, not quite as hard as they did, and given us a bit of mental space, we would have gone on for longer, I think. You know, it was just the way it was. But I've digressed. I can't remember what you actually asked me.
No, just going on about, you know, money-wise, you would expect, with the amount of number ones, the chart hits you had, you would just think you're set for life. You just would have assumed, with the amount of fame, merchandise that you guys had, you just would have thought, right, for life, you're sorted. But is that not the case? Did you get the fair share?
Not the case. I'd run out of money about a year and a half from the day we broke up.
Wow.
And I was like, shit, what do I do now? Because, like, I really, like, I wanted, in a sense, I suppose, a part of me, although I was torn, a part of me was like, oh, it would be nice to just not have to deal with this. Like, as in the band.
Yeah.
It's different. It's a really tricky one to explain. But it wasn't the nicest of working environments always. And that was the part that I wanted to get away from a little bit. It was like, oh, I just want my days not to be bickering about crap. And, like, I just want a peace in my life, bit of peace.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and then after the band, it was like, you know, I feel like I can relate to people that have been in the military. You know, they struggle when they leave the army because they're told what to do all the time. They're drilled. they know exactly what they're doing, and then all of a sudden they come out and there's no drill sergeant over you, or there's nothing in, you know, you've got to organise your own life. And as a young man, I struggled with that a little bit. It was like, whoa, I don't know what to do. And I also think I was lacking in advisors, like just trusted advisors that could go, well, you do know you could do this, mate, don't you? You know, you do know you could do that. So yeah, I struggled with that. And then, you know, when you're a famous face and you're broke, it's really, really hard. Like, it's really, really hard. You know, and there's an element of pride goes into it. You know, you don't want people pointing and laughing if you decide to take a respectable job in Tesco's or something like that. You know, you're like, well, I can't do that because people are going to recognise me all the time. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I kind of reclused, man, for like, after about 1.5 years after the band, I shut down for about 2 years, and I literally was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I've like achieved one of my dreams, but the dream turned into a little bit of a nightmare, even though it's some great things that I'm really appreciative for. So yeah, it was just a bit of a numb, empty kind of like, I don't know what to do. Then I started, you know, hitting drink at about 3 p.m. Just because I was like, I know it doesn't sound that bad, it's not 8 in the morning, but I was like, no, you can't start drinking in the morning. But I was down, you know, I was down and I couldn't get away from my thoughts. So if I had a beer or two or a bottle of brandy, I'd be able to chuckle about it and not be so like morose about it. Yeah, but I remember being torn because I got into music because I loved music, and I always say music is the sound of emotions, you know, it's the sound of feeling, and that's your passion, isn't it, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why I got into it. And then it just turned into this, like, you know, a lot of the times like a business nightmare, like accountants, solicitors. It's like, hang on a minute, where's that? Like, you know, well, you know, you don't want to alienate your fans. Yeah, but it's bloody great track. Like, why can't we just do something a bit different? And we did fight that battle, and we did do something a bit different. You know, but the record execs often like the safe bet, the safe song, the song that sounds like last year. Whereas as an artist, you want to be like, yeah, but let's do something new. And there's a balance to be struck. But yeah, I remember sitting in a Pizza Express with my girlfriend at the time. All right, it was Coldplay circa about 2002 or 3, so it was quite sad anyway. I just remember welling up, like tears coming in my eyes, like just because it was like, I'm walking away from like this music industry that I love music so much, and I want to be a part of that, but I just can't do it. I can't face the sharks, and it just seems like such a I needed a mental break from it. It took me a long time to get back to the person I was before the band. A long time. I'm talking 15 years.
Wow. And did you ever have to get a regular job after the band split? Did you get a regular job?
Yeah. To begin with, I was just sick of being almost like paralyzed or like frozen, with no motion in my life. It was like I'd literally every day I'd rack my brains going, what do you do? What do you want to do? And my passions were pulling me in a direction that maybe it was like my fear or my logic was going, no. So in the end, I was like, I found out about, my girlfriend's mom's boss had taken on this new warehouse for their offices, but it was like derelict. And she was laughing about it. It was this German guy, and he was like, he thinks he's going to be like, have it ready in a month, and he is not going to have it ready in a month, and he's doing it on his own. And he's asked if like there was anyone around that could help him, and like, you know, I know that you don't have much to do, and would you? And I was like, yeah, all right. Like I'll just go and do it, like for a laugh. And that got me kind of moving. I just enjoyed having something to get up for, like get up and change this warehouse. And I liked the physicality of it. And I liked that you saw what you'd accomplished in the day. Like you were like, oh yeah, okay, like we did that today, cool. And so I did that for a couple of months, and then that got me going. That got me thinking, all right, I feel better for just doing something.
Yeah.
So I learned how to paint and decorate, and I painted and decorated with a mate for a while. And then, cut a long story short, went off to Australia and lived there for 5 years, where I managed a bar over there, and then started my own bar and restaurant. And then the big reunion came up, which really, I was looking forward to doing, but it was only ever going to be, I'm going to go and do the TV show.
Yeah.
And then go back to Australia. Like, it was like I'm going to be there for a month or two back in the UK, see the family, do this TV show, go home. And then the big reunion was such a massive success, and it just kept rolling. And then another beautiful thing actually about reforming the band was, I told you I was a bit of a grunge head, right? Growing up, I was Nirvana, Pearl Jam. Pop was all right. I liked some pop, but I wasn't a big pop head, which surprises a lot of people. They're like, oh, what? It was either grunge or I was like, into kind of rave and like club music and stuff. And so for years afterwards as well, I had this, I guess it took me a long time to realize I had it, but it was like this chip on my shoulder where I was almost like a bit apologetic about, like, they'd be like, oh, like, aren't you from that band? I'm like, yeah, I'm from that like crappy pop band. We had some cheesy hits back, and then doing the big reunion, I completely came full circle, and I was like, this is actually cool. Like, why do I see it as like a part of me is like, yeah, we achieved a lot. We won a Brit. We did really well. And there's this other part of me that's like, it's a bit lame and like da-da-da. And I just fully embraced it. I was like, you know what? I've literally been running from my past, from myself, from all these things, trying to block it out and live this normal life. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm not meant to. Maybe that's why it's been so hard for so long. Maybe I just need to embrace who and what I am, what I've done, what I did, and just go for it. And thankfully, Sean and Scott were very much on the same page. So we just took the balls by the horns and we've ran with it, and it's just been such an unbelievable success. Like, we can't believe it even now. We play festivals for all around Europe, like 25,000 people, and it's just, it truly is beautiful. The job itself is amazing. I always say, you hear actors say, they don't pay me to act, they pay me to wait around because of all the waiting around. Well, I always say the same. They pay me to travel and spend time away from home, because the performance side of it is a true pleasure. Like, going out and, that's what the dream was all about before I got into it. That's why you got into it. And, that's what we do now. It's great.
And the thing is with the show, it was great because all these people that we've all kind of watched over the years, they seemed to have grown up. They were doing things differently. There was that pressure off them. They didn't have the, like you were talking before, some of the pressures that you'd have from the executives. It was just everyone seemed to enjoy it, let their hair down. But I wanted to talk, why the biggest kind of shock at the time was there were only 4 of you. So why did Jay not want to take part in the big reunion? Because it was such a huge opportunity.
Yeah, look, the meetings beforehand were conducted by like the four guys, the management and whatnot, and I would occasionally come in on Skype from Sydney. So I wasn't privy to the conversations that they'd go and have over a pint afterwards and stuff like that. So I don't fully know, because he never did it. So I never met up with him to have a conversation. I'd just say a quick hello over Skype with lots of people there. He was involved in that early conversation side of it. He was going to do it. And then out of the blue, he just sent everybody an email and said, I don't want to do it, and I don't think you lot should either. And that was quite a turn off for me, which Scott often reminds me, because I was like, oh, look, it's not going to be all the members now. I don't know. Because I had my little life in Sydney and I was enjoying myself, and, you know, I was like, I don't know. And Scott called me mobile to mobile from London to Sydney, and we were on for about 2 hours, and he was like, that call like cost me literally like 300 quid. But he managed to talk me round and was like, come on, man, you know, let's not let just the fact that he's not doing it. It's a great opportunity for all of us. Let's just do it. Let's do it. And yeah, so why didn't he do it? I don't know. He had his reasons. I know he, like me, after the band, struggled with the fame side of it. The fame side of it's great when you're releasing a song and stuff like that. But like I said, when it doesn't have an off switch, when you've had the success that we have had, it's always there. It's always there. So no, unfortunately, we were great friends. We had our differences in the band, and then we lived like a few roads away from each other in London for a while after the band, and we had a great time. I mean, we were like teenagers again. We were getting messed up and going clubbing and, you know, drinking, and it was great. We had great fun. We really did. And in fact, Jay came round to my house once, and he'd been having this ongoing issue with this planning that wasn't approved before he bought it. It was doing his head in. And he turned up one day, and he was like, oh, you know, I just thought we'd pop round and we'll watch a film, whatever. Yeah, okay. Then that night, he was like, do you mind if I stay, you know, tonight? Yeah, no worries, mate. Yeah, like, get your head down. Next day, he got up. Whatever we did that day, can't remember. He ended up staying for 6 months. He never left.
Wow.
yeah. He only popped round for one evening, and he ended up, you know, spending half a year around mine. But we had this like silly fallout over something really silly. It wasn't even like we had a row. We just sort of had a bit of a Mexican standoff. We're both stubborn bastards. And we haven't really spoken since then. Like, but, you know, I've lived in another country, and he's notoriously hard to get hold of anyway. He never has his phone on, and so. You know, I you know, part of me would like to just say hi. We've got some mutual friends not related to the band, so hopefully one day we can have a pint and you know, have a hug when lockdown's over and social distancing isn't in place. Yeah, just say hey. But I don't know his full reasons, but I know it would have been turning on that fame tap again.
Yeah.
And, you know, not being able to just go about his little chilled out life, you know.
And, you know, since the big reunion, like you said, it's just continued the success, the tour and the shows. But I know another one that's left that it really surprised me, because I just thought he was settled with Five, is, of course, Abz. Now, why do you know why he left the band? 'Cause that must have been a shock to you, because you had shows planned, you were working together, and then all of a sudden, you know, he's out of the band.
Yeah, look, it came as a real shock. We were going like, so, I mean, just as a bit of, maybe sometimes people don't think about this side of it, but when we sign up to a show, we commit via a legal contract. So, you know, we didn't just have a show that Saturday, a big festival in Holland. We were contracted to it. So effectively, we could be sued if we don't turn up, because these promoters pay a lot of money in rigging it up and promoting it. There's a lot of money that they depart with, and paying you, the band, and all of it that goes into it. So it was odd, because the Tuesday before the Saturday, there was no phone call, no email, and he just put a tweet out saying, as of today, I'm no longer a member of the band. And we tried to call him, didn't answer any calls, and none of us have spoken to him since. Literally, like, but it was very typical of we felt, or I certainly felt, it was very typical of the Five story. Like, we are a band, like, yeah, we did really well. We won Brits, we had #1s, but the potential to do so much more and be so much bigger was always there. And we as a unit were our own worst enemies. You know, and people don't realise because they don't know, but, you know, we had a platinum album in the States. We were top 10 over there. We made it, man. We stopped Times Square. We were all over MTV. We were the next big thing in America. And then, not calling names and stuff like that, but one band member completely blew it by just annoying the record label that much. Just being odd. I mean, he was odd. The label were like, you know what? You lot are too much hard work. Like, we just can't work with you. You're just too... You know, we just need you to just listen to us and do what we say. And we were like on this rebellious tip and blah, blah, blah. And so they just dropped us, you know, even though they could have made a lot of money. They were like, too much hard work. We don't need you arrogant British guys, stuff like that. So it kind of felt like Groundhog Day again when Abz left, like that, because it was like, oh man, like, you know, we're doing so well, like, why? And then we sat down and we were like, look, we can either take it as a kick in the nuts and get up. I mean, we do sing Everybody Get Up, you know, keep on moving. Maybe we should listen to our own message and, you know, just go, you know, we need to go and kind of help this promoter out on the weekend, because if we don't go, we're the headline act. He's going to be really in trouble. So obviously we had to make calls and say, look, man, we're really sorry, but there's nothing we can do about Abz, but we can come and we promise you the show will be fine. We will do a good show for you and it will be great. And we did. And we brought the house down. And even if I do say so myself, and that was kind of it. We were like, you know, afterwards we had a couple of beers and we were like, right, what do we do? Does this story end here because somebody left the band, or do we, you know, take that, have done it, and they've not got, you know, as many members, and, you know, Boyzone, bless them, they had a member die, but they carried on. You know, the one sticking point for us is that we named ourselves after the original number of members. Yeah. Mental note to any aspiring musicians, don't do that. Think up another name. But other than that, you know, that was 5 or 6 years ago now. And it's just never stopped. We've, you know, got a very good name for ourselves on the live circuit for upbeat, kind of in your face, getting the crowd going, pop music. You know, there's not really a lull in our show, which I enjoy being a part of the band for that. You know, it's just, it starts like that and it goes, which is fun.
And I think, you know, talking about the departures of certain members, we were talking about Jay, and you can kind of understand that because he has led a private kind of life. But the thing that surprised me personally, you know, being a fan of your guys' music, was the fact that Abz has gone on to join a new band. So you can't look at it and think, oh, he wanted to step away from the limelight, didn't want to do music anymore, because he's now in this new band. So
yeah, I agree.
What were your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I don't know whether maybe I'm only hypothesizing here.
Yeah.
I don't know because I don't speak to him. But I wonder whether, you know, the reasons that he left weren't so much that he wanted to step back, but maybe he thought he could carve his own way on his own. And maybe that didn't quite go as well as he planned. And so maybe he, you know, then that opportunity came up and he was like, yeah, all right, let's do that. That's one theory.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. You know, I did think that myself, but each to their own. I mean, you know, I know all the guys from that band, and you know, they're good guys. So I wish them well. I've seen them around for years, and you know, I hope whatever they're trying to do works out for them. You know, but yeah, it was a bit like, you don't want to be in a band, but now you're in a band.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But do you still make new music?
No, not really. We did a few years ago for a laugh. It was just for us, really, just for old time's sake. Let's get in, you know, make some tunes and see where it goes. But you know, we just haven't been in that place. I think, like I said to you, getting out and doing it live before, like you said about the big reunion and the band's enjoying it. The reason we're enjoying it is, like you said, we've not got this corporation on our backs, cracking the whip, you know, never having a minute to breathe, you know. So it was like rekindled what we got into it for. So I think we've fallen in love with that again. So who knows? I mean, maybe one day, but I think we've just been enjoying connecting with people. You know, I kind of see it as like back in the day, the 60s and 70s bands, they would go out and they would play and play and play and play and play until they had such a following, and they learned their craft on stage. Whereas we were kind of, like you said, we were spoiled in that way. We went in at the top, we had the best equipment, the best personnel, and then we've come the other side and we've, you know, hit roadblocks on stage and stuff like that. So we are like very honed in the live way now.
Yeah.
You know, we've kind of honed our craft more so now than we did back in the day. So, you know, that's been kind of fun. We've done it the other way around, which is kind of fun. Yeah, but who knows? You never know. You never know. No plans at the minute.
Well, I think with the kind of the current situation, lockdown, you could kind of make a new single, you know, if you're getting down, but if you're in lockdown, and change the lyrics a little bit. And I think you got something.
Lockdown, baby. Yeah.
I think that could work. Do you know, God forbid if the other guys are watching, but it's fair to say you've aged the best out of everyone in the band. Like,
oh wow! Do you know what? I am actually very grateful you saying that right now, because during lockdown, for some bizarre reason, you know, I've definitely been drinking more than usual of an evening, because I'm sat on my own. Like, if my daughter's not here, I'm completely on my own. So I think, you know, there's an element of that, and I've been going to bed at like when it's light, just I don't know, just filling my time. I'm like, I look at the time, I'm like, oh God, it's 4 o'clock in the morning again. What's wrong with you? Go to bed, you know? So, so I really take that as a compliment, because I was like, oh, I've got an interview today and I've been burning the candles at both ends for 6 weeks. So, yeah, but thanks for that.
Joe, it's great talking to you again. When I spoke to you before, you've always been so open and so honest. And it's the same today. And I think it's a good insight, because you've been there and done it all. And I think, you know, learning from all the experiences that you've gone through kind of gives you the opportunity to enjoy it more now and just actually be relaxed and take it in. Because I guess back then you didn't get to take in everything that was happening because it was going so quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you.
I think that's a lesson for us all, though, as well. You know, like, was it John Lennon said, life is what happens while you're busy making other plans, you know? Like, it's all great. Have goals. I'm a big goal setter. I like goals, and they're important because they get you to where you want to go. But don't forget to smell the flowers on the way. Like, you're living your life now, where you are now. You know, make sure you find the joy in wherever you are now. Because I think, how old are you, Lewis?
27.
27, okay. Like, and I bet it seems like yesterday you were 22, right?
Yeah, it's going quick, very quick now. It's scary.
Yeah, and you know, I think the older you get, faster it goes. And like, before you know it, you're going to be your parents' age, saying the things that they say to you. Oh, enjoy it, son. Or, you know, blah blah blah. It's true. It happens very, very quick. A mate messaged me yesterday. And he was like, "Did you know I've been with my wife, married for 5 years, and with her for 10?" Like, it's, you know, I said, yeah, blink and you miss it, mate. Like,
yeah.
And another one is like having a child. Like, you know, my child's 6 this year. That's just mad. Like, you know, like I'm having quite intelligent conversations with my child now. And it's like, wow, it seems like yesterday you were dribbling, milk guzzling poo machines. You know what I mean? So, yeah, mad.
Well, thanks for exposing my less smart attire down below today.
All right.
My secret's blown.
Yeah, no. And yeah, well, look, you know, all the best to you in lockdown.
You too.
You know, and like, I will say this as well, and I put a tweet out because I had one day about a week or so ago where I really did have the blues, man. Like, I felt really low. And normally if I start feeling low, I'm aware that my brain is attacking itself. And, you know, that gremlins started, you know, and I go, hang on a minute. I know you need to just go into your box. And I just couldn't do it this day. Like, it got me. I felt quite isolated. I don't know, just couldn't get out of it. And I'm sure that a lot of people out there have had days like this. Maybe that's their existence in lockdown. So, you know, while I'm out on a media channel of yours, just like to say, like, you are not alone. You know, we're all going through it, and you know, it won't be forever. So just remember, you know, we are all in this together, apart.
Yeah. No, thank you.